Ever since Smartwash asked that question, what is a woman? The definition of womanhood has become a hot-button socio-cultural and socio-political issue, with a myriad of conflicting, competing, and contradictory definitions.
What is a woman? I'm told she's a mother. Worn hands from lifting children, cleaning dishes, making supper. What is a woman? Is she eating for less? Thin, tan, make a breathless man when he has her alone and undressed. What is a woman? Can she be decided? New purse, beauty hurts the worst, yet you name her misguided. What is a woman?
What such definition is the idea that a woman is whatever a woman says she is, and that only a woman can define what a woman is. This definition, reminiscent of Kendi's circular definition of racism, leaves one scratching one's head in bewilderment.
So racism, I would define it as a collection of racist policies that lead to racial inequity that are substantiated by racist ideas.
Yet, this definition is not only given but accepted by many in the medical, political arena, academia, and Western society in general. Concomitantly, there has been a noticeable rise in the number of biological males who now identify as women, and they do so in the most flamboyant, exaggerated, and superficial way, taking on features of hyperfemininity, almost to the point of a parody of womanhood.
Being a girl, and I've already become a bimbo. With the queen herself, we're drinking martinis at 2:55 on a Monday on Sunset Boulevard, and then we're going makeup shopping.
We love it.
Cheers.
Cookies?
Yeah,
The bimbos are bimboing.
it's 100%. You need it. You literally need that.
These new women in quotes portray their femininity as an over-exaggeration of what it means to be a woman, and in doing so have cemented the existing gender stereotypes while ironically claiming that nothing specifically can be attributed to womanhood. Womanhood today is a thing to be parodied, caricatured, satirized, and appropriated. People often think of and make a fuss about cultural appropriation, but feminine appropriation is a much more sinister problem at the moment. And no one has portrayed this parody of womanhood more effectively and visibly than Dylan Mulvaney, a TikTok social media influencer. The initial impression you get from watching his Days of Girlhood series is to be dismissive and think of him as a troll at worst and an ineffective comedian at best. Yet he's being taken seriously to the point of even landing an interview with the President of the United States.
Mr. President, this is my 221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love it.
Thank you. I am extremely privileged to live in a state that allows me access to the resources I need, and that decision is just between me and my doctors. But many states have lawmakers that feel like they can involve themselves in this very personal process. Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong.
Is a far more sinister figure, as he has set out to appropriate girlhood instead. That in itself should spark all manner of red flags, that a full-grown man portrays himself as a girl. How did it ever become okay for men to be able to do this? Nondescript males have automatically been shot to prominence and wealth by simply declaring themselves to be women. The world stops and genuflects before these new women, hailing them as brave. Caitlyn Jenner was a woman for less than a year before winning the Woman of the Year award.
Caitlyn Jenner, a name none of us had heard till 6 months ago, has in that short time helped teach America what it means to live a courageous and authentic life.
Leah Thomas effortlessly dominated a female swimming competition, and most recently an obese man, Brian Nguyen, won a beauty contest ahead of objectively beautiful biological women. Now, in a fair contest, there is no way that he would be able to win a beauty contest of any sort, even against the most plain-looking set of women. Yet, when the announcement was made, the women who had just been robbed of a potential title acted like he had any chance of winning the title in the first place, as if it was not all orchestrated for diversity points to virtue signal, and in this case, ironically, to a man at the expense of women. Hey, I wrote this very kick-ass crime fiction novel, which also features a thought-provoking debate on race and colonialism. If you'd like to support this channel, please grab a copy. The link is in the description below. Thank you. Sadly, many women are complicit in this hostile takeover. They actively support it or passively affirm it. Those that dare speak out are bullied and labeled as transphobes. Some feminists critical of this appropriation have unceremoniously been termed or branded as TERFs and consistently draw the eye of the trans activist mob.
The woman, who is likely the world's best-known children's author, is defending herself against growing accusations of transphobia. This is J.K. Rowling, the creator of Harry Potter, of course, who sparked outrage last weekend with a series of controversial tweets about trans women. She's now written an essay on her blog addressing the accusations and saying her opinions stem from her own experience with domestic violence. That's why she's been pushed to advocate for women's rights, she says.
This has the patriarchy smeared all over it. It is fitting to say that the patriarchy has remade itself in the image of a woman, and a not so beautiful woman at that, to take away from women their hard-fought rights and privileges. Being trans is the trendy thing today, and no one seems to care about the consequences for women who have lost their voices, their place, and their spaces to men. So the question is, what is behind this trans drive? For me, a working theory is that this is a fallout from the demonization of men, at least for male to female transitioners. For the better part of maybe the last 5 or 10 years, the narrative was that masculinity is toxic. Masculine behavior was shamed, abused, degraded, and dismissed as being toxic.
Toxic masculinity is a popular term used nowadays to describe the behavior of men that are problematic. While it may sound demeaning to men, toxic masculinity does not criticize masculinity itself. Instead, it refers to the adherence men may have to societal standards for masculinity that can prove to be harmful to men and society as well. Common traits. Toxic masculinity exhibits traits that are characteristic to men, such as 1. Aggression, 2. Being stoic, 3. Physical and mental toughness, 4. Emotional insensitivity, 5. Self-sufficiency, 6. Discrimination against everything not heterosexual.
Femininity was heralded as the ideal. Soft, sensitive, in quotes, feminine men became the in thing, and any display of masculine energy was frowned upon. The Me Too movement seemed to validate the claims that men were toxic predators lurking around ready to prey on unsuspecting females. And some men may have figured that the only way to escape this assault and become relevant or get some attention today was to become a woman. After all, womanhood had become a category with open admission to all. There was nothing to lose, but so much to gain by becoming trans. A 62-year-old man who now identifies as female stated such to be his motivations. He says, "Hey, I'm Sari, 62 and in Bristol, UK. Discovering myself after 48 years of patience for my 13-year-old little soul. Interested in the world, but especially art and dancing. No idea why I'm doing this except what's to lose and so much possibility." That sums up perfectly the motivation behind the transitioning of many men. There is nothing to lose, rather there is the potential to gain fame, wealth, praise, recognition, and status simply by declaring to be a woman. Who wouldn't take such a good deal? From every point of analysis, women are getting the short end of this deal. Either they're being pushed out of their spaces by biological males, or confused young women are being encouraged to transition surgically and medically without understanding the consequences of transitioning on their reproductive and sexual capabilities. Years down the line, many have come to regret the decision to transition, as it had not brought them the desired and promised relief from dysphoria. Stories of the transitioners are becoming more common, pointing to the shocking fact that many young women transition out of social pressure and subtle coercion.
As a child, I developed a trans identity as a result of a brutal sexual assault. I decided I was going to be a boy because I never wanted to have my body violated the way I was when I was a girl. Thankfully, my school psychologist was able to work with me and help me resolve those feelings. Unfortunately now, many states have banned therapy that will help children who have developed a trans identity as a result of a trauma. And even worse, these children are being pushed to medically transition. Thankfully, I wasn't medically transitioned, but a lot of other children have not been so lucky.
Is that I am a detransitioner. So I was born biologically female, and I transitioned to live as a man in my 20s. I had to come to terms with the fact that I was experiencing transition regret.
One of those people everybody's calling a pediatric transitioner. But I was on hormones for 7 years. Really confusing thing. Coming out of a trans narrative was definitely one of the top 3 worst experiences of my life.
These, the transitioners whose stories run counter to the trans agenda, are paradoxically targeted and harassed as being transphobic. And those who have mutilated themselves have done so with the help and encouragement of activists, the media, physicians, and the complacency of Western society. In no other medical condition is it prescribed as a therapy to cut off fully functional and healthy body parts. Yet, many physicians who took the oath to, quote, first do no harm have become butchers of young girls. It is not hard to see the motivations of these physicians. One trans patient is a guaranteed patient and revenue source for life. It restores a vested economic interest on the part of the physician to recommend medically transitioning as a viable therapy. In a twisted way, this is a perfect intersection of toxic positivity, narcissism, and profit-making. As this assault on womanhood continues, posterity would judge this era harshly, and rightly so, as one who saw the erosion of the rights of women, the essentialization of gender ideology, and the mutilation of young female bodies for profit. And if a suitable caption is ever needed to describe today, the patriarchy strikes back would be as fitting as any. Hey, I wrote this very kick-ass crime fiction novel, which also features a thought-provoking debate on race and colonialism. If you'd like to support this channel, please grab a copy. The link is in the description below. Thank you.